Hi everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for the Accessible Gaming Panel. We are here to show you the power of accessibility and inclusion in video games with an amazing lineup of guests. I myself am your host today, Dom Shaw. I am the EDI, which stands for Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Coordinator at UKIE, which is the trade body for video games and interactive entertainment. And I'm really proud that UKIE, through our diversity initiative called Raise the Game, is partnering with AbilityNet for TechShare Pro this year. We did so last year. We made a great collaboration, and as they say, don't stop the good things coming. So we're back again this year. But to cut my intro short and get you to know these lovely folks, I'm going to go down the panel for them to tell you their intro, because they best know themselves, so why not let them tell you more about them? So I'll kickstart with Ed.
My name's Edwards. I'm a game designer and I work for Rebellion. Rebellion obviously make video games, and they also work in comics and in film as well. Me specifically, I'm a systems designer, so I work on the features of the game and make sure that they all run smoothly and everyone understands them and enjoys them. The reason I'm here today is because I've always grown up with video games and enjoyed them. I've met a lot of friends, built a lot of social circles around them, and also had a lot of emotional support from a video game, so being able to relax and laugh playing games. So for me, it's really important that we make sure that as many people can experience those games as possible. There are lots of games that I enjoyed, things like Wii Sports, that I understand aren't actually that accessible for people. So for me, I feel it is really important that we put a strong emphasis on making sure that games can be enjoyed by people and by as many people as possible.
Brilliant. And then passing the mic to Joe.
Hi everyone, so I'm Jo. I'm the design director at a small indie games company called Snap-Finger-Click. We make games to be played together, both in the living room and also online over Twitch. So all of our games you can play by watching somebody play it on Twitch. You can join in through the chat and type in commands to play along. I started my career in a company that was pioneering for accessibility and inclusivity back in the mid-noughties, which was a company called Relentless. We made a game called Buzz, which maybe some people know, I don't know, but it was a trivia game that you could play with a special controller that was shaped like a game show buzzer. And from there, it's always been a big passion of mine to make sure that everybody can play games.
Brilliant. And James, your turn.
Thanks, Dom. James Butcher. I'm the Xbox commercial lead for Northern Europe. So I guess you'll hear a bit from me later on this, but I kind of have to see accessibility really end to end. You know, I'm about getting product into and experiences into our players' hands, and so accessibility touches quite a broad spectrum end to end. So I wanted to kind of touch on that. But I've been in gaming for nearly 10 years now. I sit on the UKIE board and work with Dom closely and proud sponsors of the Raise the Game initiative as well. So we are very much focused on accessibility right now, and yeah, it's pretty core to everything we do. So yeah, excited to talk to everyone today.
Amazing. And Sam?
Hi, my name's Sam Schaffel. I'm an accessibility design researcher at Insomniac Games. I work with the research team and the design team to make accessibility features, help design them, help implement them, help get feedback with consultants and gamers with accessibility needs. And yeah, I've worked there recently on Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which just came out in October. But before that, I actually got my start in QA at Naughty Dog, working on Last of Us Part 2, and then working on God of War Ragnarok as an associate UX accessibility designer there. I also have cerebral palsy, so it's really close to my heart to make sure that folks like myself and other folks with accessibility needs can game and experience everything that we so lovingly create.
Splendid. And Brian, last but not least.
Hello, I'm Brian Parsons. I'm a designer for the PlayStation platform, so PS5, access controller, all those great things. I'm a nerd about accessibility. I love the innovation. That's why I'm wearing these shoes, the Nike Fly Go E's. Love accessibility. So I'm excited to be here to talk about it. And also, Sam is selling himself short. He's been a big part of a lot of our games winning Accessible Game of the Year. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you're in the perfect place, all of you, to bring out that passion. And to kickstart, I would love to really deep dive into why your companies invest into accessibility. And I'd love to start that question with you, Sam, because obviously, as you mentioned, Insomniac has just released the new game Spider-Man 2. So it's very recent that you're bringing all the accessibility goodness.
Absolutely. So Insomniac Games' vision is to make games that have a positive and lasting influence on people's lives, and accessibility fits really well within that mission, to be inclusive and to make sure that everyone can enjoy these experiences and they have that impact. And we work with consultants and so many folks, and we work cross-disciplinary with all the teams to make that possible. So for us, that's why we do it.
Fantastic. And Brian, as Insomniac work very closely with PlayStation, obviously as part of your worldwide studios, I'd love to get that bigger scope of perspective of why PlayStation invests into accessibility.
It's very simple. It leads to innovation and market share.
Very simple but nice answer. And James, how about you? Obviously, Xbox have been in the game around accessibility for a while, but what keeps the engine going, and why do you keep investing?
Yeah, I kind of think about it in three ways. Kind of tracking up to our mission statement. Our mission is to bring the joy and community of gaming to everyone on the planet. So this notion of gaming for everyone is pretty important. It's pretty core to that. And when we say everyone, we think, end to end. And again, it's kind of going back to my previous point. This is not just about the hardware that you make or the games or the stories that we tell. We've got to think about it at a pure go-to-market level. The events we put on, the experiences in store with our partners, the games that our partners are making. So it's all of that is pretty core in order for this mission to be realized. And so, going to reach the 420 million plus gamers with disabilities out there worldwide, you've really got to think about, awareness and accessibility services from a services perspective being really nuanced and personal, but at scale. Like, how do you kind of take these gaming experiences really frankly to everyone out there? And so that's why we continue to do it. It's pretty core to the mission at Xbox.
Absolutely. And kind of going into the more indie space with both Joe and Ed, I'll kickstart with you, Joe. Why is SnapFingerClick investing in accessibility?
Well, on the surface, it's very simple, as others have said. It's for this is what we do. It's making games for everyone, and we want to reach everyone. But I think for us, it runs a lot deeper than that, in the sense that accessibility is also for everyone. I think when people think about accessibility who haven't thought about it much, they think it's, can somebody do this, yes or no? And it's not as simple as that. It always comes down to, is this the best way for somebody to do it? Is this the way that they find it easiest to do? Is this the way that they find it most enjoyable to do? And I think everyone can relate to playing a game and thinking, oh, I wish I could do it this way, or I wish it would work like that. And when everything clicks and comes together and it's actually an enjoyable experience for you, you emotionally connect with that experience much better. It turns you from somebody who casually likes the game into a super fan who loves the game. And for us as an indie, that's really powerful. We want a passionate community of people who really love our products, because we haven't got a big marketing team out there pushing our products in front of people. We rely a lot on the goodwill of our community and people sharing our social media posts and telling their friends and buying our next game. And we reach them by allowing them to make that strong connection with the game. And I think that's what accessibility brings. It allows people to get a little bit closer to play the game the way they really want to play it.
Splendid. And Ed, why does Rebellion invest into accessibility?
So I think in gaming, it's really easy to see accessibility as an extra. It's like an extra feature. You see the little menu in the option that says accessibility, and that's where you put all your features. And as good as they are, in my few years at Rebellion, as accessibility has become more and more prominent, we would have lots of conversations where we'd have a feature about how something should work. And we would go to our accessibility designer and we would say, how do we make this more accessible? Is there something we can add? Is there something we can change? She would make all these suggestions and we'd talk about it and we'd come to a solution. And nearly every time we would come to this accessible solution and go, hang on a minute, that's better than the original design. That's just better for everyone. Everyone can enjoy that more. The feature is easier to understand and it is just funner. So I think at its core, that's why Rebellion cares about it, because it is just good game design. If something is accessible and you have that focus on accessibility as you're making a game, you're making a stronger product for everyone to enjoy.
Absolutely, regardless scale or scope, as everyone has highlighted here, that energy, that enthusiasm, passion to make sure games can reach as many people as possible is truly a power in the games industry of accessibility. And kind of going into some of the more kind of nuanced features and implementations of accessibility, I'd love to kind of go down the row and kind of get one particular feature that you may have implemented recently into a game that you're very proud of. So starting with you first this time, Ed, is there some form, whether it's voice or navigation, is there some form of feature or element in a game that you've recently implemented that you're proud of putting in?
So this isn't me specifically, but I was involved in the process. In Rebellion's sort of last release, Sniper Elite 5, we had colorblind mode, which meant you could go into these accessible features and adjust the contrasting colors of things if you are colorblind. And we had loads of different options for people who had different types of colorblindness. And I think the reason I bring that up, even though it wasn't me who specifically implemented it, is because I was really proud of how it got implemented. It started with one of our senior level designers bringing up that they enjoyed playing Sniper Elite 4 with their dad, who was colorblind, but he struggled a lot with certain markers and certain messages and certain UI elements because he couldn't quite see them. So he brought it up to the design team and just mentioned it and said, look, he wants to be able to play this game. He struggled with it. Can we maybe put something in? And we then brought it up to the UI team and it then got implemented. It's quite a funny story because the first pass of that, the UI team went away. We're like, right, we're going to come up with these options that are going to help people who are colorblind. They presented it to the accessibility designer. And it turns out instead of counteracting colorblindness, they just simulated it. But because we brought it up early, there was time to iterate on that and fix that. So I'm really proud of that process and that sort of open feedback that level design was able to bring and the fact that it was listened to and implemented.
Absolutely brilliant. It shows the collaborative nature that it doesn't matter if you're not solely working on it, but actually you all can feel proud. Going to you, Joe, has there been a recent feature or element in the game that you're proud of?
Yeah, it's hard to sort of pinpoint a particular thing, but I think there's a story that was shared by somebody in our community fairly recently. He has cerebral palsy and he had an operation in hospital during COVID, and he was in hospital for a very long time. It was about a month. And he ended up playing one of our games on Stadia on his phone. And he said that for him it was great because there was very few things that he could do while he was sort of stuck in hospital, not able to do much. Because he could access it on his phone, you didn't need a game console. We'd made it so that it would work with touch screens, so it was all quite sort of like much easier for him to use. And even sort of like more broadly than that, like we focus on sort of the multiplayer experience, but we always build a single player mode in. The fact that we built a sort of more kind of compelling enough single player mode to keep him sort of amused during that time. And then also at the same time, he was dropping in on our Twitch streams. This game had just come out. And in the game, it's a quiz game. So you can answer questions in Twitch by typing in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the keyboard. He uses speech to text a lot and found that when he says the number 1, it wouldn't be the number 1, it would type it out O-N-E, which our game wasn't set up to deal with. But it was actually a really simple change. So he said, oh, it's a shame I can't play. And as soon as we found out, we just patched it and fixed that so that he could play. And we did it as quickly as we could. So while he was still in hospital, he was then able to join in during that time. So I think, it highlights, very similar to Ed's story, talking to actual people who are playing your game, finding out what is causing them, what is a barrier for them to actually overcome that. Often it is quite a simple change. It's not an expensive change. It's just something that you hadn't thought about until somebody comes and tells you about it.
That's absolutely inspiring to hear that, you know, you took that barrier and you just lifted it, and now they're part of your community. James, obviously with Xbox being the big giant it is, you have many games. So I'd love if there's a particular feature that's maybe across a level of your games, or a particular game that you're like, this is the one that I'm really proud of its accessibility features.
I'll be greedy and take 2 examples. I'll be quick, I promise.
Please do.
Okay, so I'm really proud of the Forza franchise all up. I think with Forza Horizon, we introduced American Sign Language and British Sign Language to the games with Forza Horizon 5 back in 2022, and most recently with Forza Motorsport. I know you got a bit of a demo earlier on with the power of blind gaming. We've introduced blind drive assist to Forza Motorsport, so that uses cutting edge sound design to keep fully blind or partially blind players on the track and make them exceptionally competitive. And so that was really, really amazing to watch unfold. So go to YouTube and type blind driving assist Forza Motorsport, and you can kind of see the power. We work with Brandon Cole, who's an accessibility consultant and blind gamer. So that was a really, really powerful story. And then I think the only reason I bring up the second one, because it was part of the last discussion around this kind of notion of education. I think, you know, we need to remember that, like, the power of storytelling and gaming. And so Minecraft Education actually recently released a program called Buildability, and that partnered with Accessibility World and Peel School, and that was all about creating a Minecraft education experience which educated young children around accessibility, and that's educating them around, you know, understanding, identifying, and then also eliminating kind of those challenges and barriers in their school and their community. And when you think about the barriers, you know, there's technological, there's organizational, there's communication, there's a lot of different barriers. And so it was actually a game and an experience to really educate those individuals. So I found that really powerful and important to kind of keep the accessibility, I guess, this notion of, like, you know, everyone understanding it and the importance of it on the agenda. So yeah.
Absolutely. As you said earlier, gaming for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Sam, you've worked across an amazing line of games, but obviously with the latest one that you've worked on, is there a particular feature that you've loved implementing because of your past learnings, or something that might be completely brand new to the table?
There's so many. It's really hard to choose one. It's like asking to pick, you know, your favorite child or something.
I mean, you can be greedy. You can be greedy and take 2.
Okay. Well, okay, I really want to mention, like, 4 come to mind. I'll go quick. How about that?
I'll time you.
All right. So we've got the auto heal feature in Marvel Spider-Man 2, which is a new feature that actually came out of some learnings from consultancy. And what that enables players to do is set a threshold of their health to like 30, 50, or 10%. And if they have the resource available, it automatically heals them. So it takes one thing that they don't have to pay attention to, and they can just focus on the combat, which players found really, really cool. Then there's also, we have a melee mode where instead of just pressing the button repeatedly, you could press it once to toggle it on and press it once to toggle it off. And for me, as a person who just uses my right side and has some motor accessibility needs, it's really nice to be able to do that. And working with the combat team to figure out exactly what would interrupt that, and, you know, put a stop to it with the finishers versus like continuing it, so you could dodge mid melee, or you could hold the button down to do like an air launch mid melee, and it would keep the combo going in the air. It's super impressive and super cool to be able to you know, press that button once and go through this whole string, and then also just have, you know, press one dodge and just hold it down once to do an air launch and take out like a whole room full of enemies. It makes you feel really powerful. And then, of course, there's some features in the December update that I can't go into too much detail on, but our screen reader is fantastic, and our audio descriptions, which is a first for me, helping implement those and also write a little bit of those and kind of help pick out those details that are really important for accessibility, and working with our vendors and our team to get that done game-wide for all our cinematics and QTEs was really cool.
Fantastic. Well,
Sorry, that was a lot.
but it was really good because it shows just the range of different ways that you all are thinking of getting people involved, may that be through navigation, voice, motor controls. It's fantastic, and hopefully some of you in the audience, both online and in person, have tried some of these features out. But there will definitely be time in the future, depending on where you are. But I'd love to kind of switch it over from the software to the hardware. And I'll kickstart with you, Brian. I'd love to hear more about what PlayStation are focusing on through accessibility in the hardware.
Great question. The access controller, you get to demo it if you're here on site. It's intended for people with physical disabilities. I love this controller, super flexible, customizable. You can play it straight out of the box. What I personally loved watching this through the years that we did it was seeing not only PlayStation commit the resources to it, but we committed our best resources to it. So it's always challenging to get accessibility on the table. It's even harder to get your best designers, your best hardware engineers, and we did it. And it was just amazing to see the best people in the room come together and then work with communities for people with physical disabilities across the globe, Tokyo, London, California. And yeah, we built what I hope everyone agrees is an incredible product. So test it out if you get a chance.
You hear that, everyone? Get to that room soon. But equally, we've got some amazing hardware here as well from Xbox. And James, obviously, you're the man in the know of that hardware. Please tell us more.
Yeah, I think similarly to the PlayStation Access controller, we have the Xbox Adaptive Controller. We launched that in 2018, and that was really, again, similarly to Brian's comment around enabling gamers with limited mobility to play the games they want with the people they want on the devices they want, and that was the objective of the kind of the effort. And so we ended up with this amazing controller, which kind of inspired the developer community to go and develop around it. It has the option of hundreds of different peripherals depending on your disability, and so again, kind of giving more choice and really appealing to as many people as we possibly can. And again, that kind of goes back to that goal. And then when I think about hardware, I also think about the platform and our UI. And what's also important for us is that we kind of signal those games that have the relevant accessibility features. And so we introduced accessibility tags to our store. So gamers within the disabled community are able to go in and understand, is this a game that they can play, and before they go and buy. And so we really wanted to make sure that we were able to inform that community before they went ahead and purchased a title. So those are like two examples at a hardware level, but also at a platform level as well.
Brilliant. And it just shows you, we've got these big giants in our industry, both Xbox and PlayStation, putting all this resource and truly making games more inclusive from that dedication. So I really appreciate both of you sharing those hardware details. We're almost coming to a close for our panel, but I want to take one more thing from each of our panelists, and that is either one resource or one piece of advice that they would want to give around accessibility. And I'm going to kickstart this with Joe first. Is there one tip or resource you'd like to share with the audience to go accessibility?
Yeah, I think just talking to people, like as simple as that sounds, everybody is different. Everybody has their own needs and wants and different ways of doing things. And for us as an indie, there's so much out there that's free. You can look at people's reviews of your games. You can look at how people play your game on Twitch. You can talk to your community. You can ask them what they think. We tend to get our games out there as early as we can, playing them on Twitch, getting our community involved, listening to their feedback, seeing how are you finding this? What would make it easier for you? Just listening to people's stories and seeing what we can do to help there. Like that for us is so valuable because we're always learning. Like you can't put everybody into categories. Everybody's got their own ways of doing things. And the only way you're going to find that out is by asking them and listening to what they've got to say.
Fantastic. Communication is top tier, so I really appreciate that. Ed, what about yourself? Any resources and advice that you'd like to share?
So I've recently been doing a lot of work on sort of control schemes and how our games, what schemes they have and what buttons require what actions. And when I first sat down and I looked at a keyboard and a PlayStation controller and an Xbox controller, and I was like, where do I start with this? There's all these features in these games, there's all these buttons, and it can be really hard to even get started, especially when you are thinking about accessibility so early on. And a resource I found really useful was from the charity Special Effect, who are amazing advocates for accessibility. And they have something called the Special Effect Dev Kit. And it's basically a big list of, there's a lot of writing and a lot of videos to go with them that goes through a bunch of test cases of potential issues people may have using certain controllers or keyboards and with holds and with double taps and things like those. And also has some amazing examples of solutions that other games had. I found it really useful in grounding me and okay, this is a base to start from. You're still never going to be able to cover every base on your own, but working through that dev kit and then setting up my schemes was a really nice thing to do together.
Brilliant. And it's, again, it comes back to that education point of it helped kickstart and really empower your mind to go forward with accessibility. James, a resource or tip you'd like to share?
I'm gonna plug the Xbox accessibility guidelines, and so this is a pretty comprehensive toolkit and site for developer community to go and really understand and unpack the kind of the accessibility innovation that we can share and understanding leveraging our accessibility tools. I sitting on the board at UKIE, I get to the privilege of talking to studios all shapes and sizes, and one of the studios I've spoken with, they sort of came to me afterwards, after we kind of shared the toolkit, and they said after kind of reading all the resources, they implemented 60 accessibility features into their game. And that was just like a tangible, like, wow, that's incredible. So it's there for people to go and read and use, and yeah, please go find it.
Brilliant. Sam, what about yourself?
So we have the Insomniac Games support page where we list all of our accessibility features and kind of talk about it and explain them. But we also just have support where people can email us and contact us because we love finding out like what we can do in the future, what people liked, and things like that. So we really try to listen to the community, not just through our support page, but also through consultants and accessibility play tests. But there's tons of ways, and we love it when people get in touch. So
fantastic. Being open to that feedback is brilliant to hear. And of course, Brian, what about yourself?
So for those of you interested in PlayStation, playstation.com/accessibility, that's where we have all our accessibility news, links out to our games and their details about accessibility features. Internally, if you're a developer, we do have accessibility information within the SDK that you can look up and see how you can implement accessibility into your games.
Brilliant. And I also remember that community groups was a really strong, passionate area for you as well.
It's huge. We've connected with Able Gamers, Special Effects, Stack Up, and a few others. But the tip I give everyone getting into the accessibility world is find your local community groups. In San Francisco, we have Lighthouse for the Blind, which we can reach out to. Even better if you can go and tour and meet people and just see how people interact with the world and listen to them for their feedback. And yeah.
Brilliant. And just to highlight some other really great organizations, some that are here today, such as Blind Burners, Everyone Can, the Game Accessibility Nexus, all of these great communities and charities are there to support. And as you've all highlighted, just being open and communicating to all of these different audiences can not only make us stronger, but bring greater inclusion in games. So I think that'll be time. But just before we go, first off, I'd love to thank all of our lovely speakers for their absolutely tidbits of knowledge and just passion. I don't know whether we're doing flapping or clapping. Clapping. Fantastic. And again, thank you everyone in the room and also online who are watching today. If, as mentioned before, if you want to check out PlayStation and Xbox, but also some of the organizations I just mentioned, like Blind Burners and Everyone Can. We do have exhibition areas, such as the Inclusive Games area and the PlayStation area. So if you are here in person, please do make sure you check out those spaces. And finally, we do have one more game session later today as a lunch and learn with the brilliant Sam and Brian, who will explore deeper into the PlayStation array of accessibility. So once again, thank you all for coming, and give another round of applause to these amazing people.